Right now, 1 in 6 American adults is locked into a subscription they can't just cancel. And I'm not talking about Netflix, I'm talking about this. Every single morning, before breakfast, they pop open that little orange bottle and swallow an antidepressant. To understand the scale of this, just look at how fast this market is growing. In 2020, according to the CDC, 13.2% of the adult population was taking them. That translates to 34 million people. But after the pandemic, according to a 2024 Express Scripts report, that number jumped to 16%. And 16% means 42 million adults, 42 million people, every single day. In the 1950s, these drugs existed behind the locked doors of psychiatric hospitals. They were given to patients with the most severe disorders, people who couldn't get out of bed for months. And today they're prescribed to a guy who walks into his doctor's office and says, "Doc, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't want to do anything, I have zero energy, I lie down at night and can't fall asleep for hours." Yeah, and turn on your TV and within an hour you'll see an antidepressant commercial. A smiling woman walking her dog. A man hugging his kids on a sun-drenched lawn. Side effects scroll by in tiny print at the bottom of the screen that nobody reads. America is one of only 2 countries on the entire planet where that kind of advertising is even legal. The second country will genuinely surprise you, but more on that later. The questions I want answered are simple. How did it happen that between the 1950s and today, tens of millions of otherwise healthy people were convinced that their brain is broken and needs to be fixed with chemicals? Who's making money off of this? And most importantly, how did they build a business the customer can't get out of? Because if you or someone you love opens that little orange pill bottle every morning, everything I'm about to tell you hits close to home. Meet Joe. He's 32, he's got a job, a mortgage, a relationship, and the constant feeling that he's falling behind. Sound familiar? He lies down to sleep and then stares at the ceiling for an hour and a half because his brain won't shut off. He wakes up wrecked, coffee work, coffee work. He's got no time and no energy for a decent meal. He starts snapping at the people closest to him over little things he never would have noticed before. And then something worse than irritability sets in. Joe stops wanting things. Not any one specific thing, everything. The stuff that used to make him happy doesn't make him feel anything anymore. It's like someone turned the volume of life all the way down to 0. Joe decides it's time to see a doctor. Ideally, a psychiatrist, but a psychiatrist costs $200 minimum per visit, and the wait list is months long. So Joe does what most of us would do. He books an appointment with his regular primary care doctor, and this is where we need to stop and look at the numbers. 7 out of 10 of these prescriptions aren't written by a psychiatrist at all. They're written by a regular primary care doctor. You complain about being tired, the doctor nods, and voila, you're holding a prescription for a pill that alters your brain chemistry, even without a confirmed diagnosis of depression. Joe gets a 15-minute appointment. He says, "Doc, I can't sleep. I don't want to do anything. I feel like crap." For a primary care doctor who hears these exact complaints 10 times a day, the response has been on autopilot for years, less than a minute. And Joe is holding a prescription for sertraline, aka Zoloft, the most prescribed antidepressant in the country according to ClinCalc data for 2024. Pharmacy around the corner. Problem solved. Next. Joe walks out of the office with a prescription in his hand and a wave of relief in his chest. Finally. Not advice from friends, not some meditation off YouTube, not try going for more walks. A real doctor prescribed real medication. That means everything's under control and things are about to get better. In marketing, this is called the top of the funnel, when a person voluntarily takes a step toward the product. He's convinced he made the decision himself. That's exactly how it's designed, because at the next stages, the funnel starts to narrow. The exit gets smaller and smaller, and at the very last stage, there is no exit at all. Just a monthly payment and the fear of what happens if you stop paying. Joe doesn't know any of this yet. He's still at the top. But to understand what exactly Joe just swallowed, we need to go back 70 years, to a place where nobody was thinking about depression, a tuberculosis ward. New York, 1952, Seaview Hospital on Staten Island. They're treating tuberculosis here, a disease that's killing hundreds of thousands at the time. Doctors are testing a new drug, iproniazid, and they notice a strange side effect. Picture this. People who are supposed to be slowly dying suddenly start literally dancing in the hallways. Newspapers at the time wrote about it. People with end-stage tuberculosis were smiling, cracking jokes, asking for seconds at dinner. Medicine had accidentally stumbled onto the fact that chemicals can change your mood. That was the moment it all began. The real money came 35 years later. In 1987, Eli Lilly brought a drug to market that changed everything. Fluoxetine. You know it by a different name. And here's the genius of what Eli Lilly did. They didn't just sell a pill, they sold an idea. An idea that went like this. Your depression is a chemical imbalance in your brain. You don't have enough serotonin. Prozac will fix that. It sounded so simple and so logical that questioning it felt stupid. One problem. In 2022, a team of researchers led by Joanna Moncrief compiled and analyzed the results of dozens of the largest studies on serotonin and depression. The paper was published in Molecular Psychiatry, one of the most prestigious scientific journals in the field of psychiatry. The conclusion: there is no convincing evidence that depression is caused simply by low serotonin levels. Pharma companies sold us a pretty fairy tale about a chemical imbalance because it was easy to understand and easy to buy into. Yes, the pills can artificially alter how your brain works, but the theory that the entire marketing machine was built on for decades turned out to be a gross oversimplification made for the sake of sales. But by that point, Eli Lilly had already made billions off Prozac, and the chemical imbalance idea had burrowed so deep into people's heads that no study is ever going to dig it out. And here we need to talk about the one thing that makes the American antidepressant market truly unique. On the entire planet, only 2 countries allow pharma companies to advertise prescription drugs directly on television: the United States and New Zealand. 2 countries out of nearly 200. That means an American can be sitting on the couch watching TV at night, see a commercial where a sad woman takes a pill and suddenly starts smiling and walking her dog through the park and remember the name of the drug. And the next day, walk into the doctor's office and describe his symptoms using the exact same words he heard in the ad. And the doctor will write the prescription because that's how the system works. Remember Joe? He's been on Zoloft for a month now. The first 2 weeks were rough. Nausea, headaches, a weird feeling like someone put a foggy pane of glass between him and the world. The doctor warned him, hang in there, your body will adjust. Joe toughed it out. And sure enough, by the 3rd week, things got better. The anxiety backed off. Sleep improved. Joe decided the pill was working. But here's what actually happened inside his body, and what nobody explained to him. Zoloft, like all SSRI class antidepressants, doesn't create serotonin. It doesn't add anything new to the brain. It just blocks the reuptake. It forces the serotonin the brain has already produced to stay active longer. Imagine a faucet running water into a sink with an open drain. An SSRI doesn't turn the faucet up, it just plugs the drain. There's more water sitting in the sink, but the faucet is putting out the exact same amount as before. And now the key question: what does the body actually make serotonin from? Thin air? No. It needs raw materials, primarily the amino acid tryptophan from protein-rich food, plus helpers: folate, vitamin B12, vitamin D. And this is where the problem starts, the one nobody told Joe about. Before messing with brain chemistry, a responsible doctor should check the body's baseline settings. Without folate, vitamin D, or B12, without a properly functioning thyroid, you're simply not going to have any energy. You're taking powerful medication, and the root of the problem could have been a deficiency in essential vitamins that nobody even bothered to check. 6 months go by. Joe feels the pill stop working. The familiar anxiety creeps back. His brain simply adapted to the artificial crutch. Joe goes back to the doctor. And here, ask yourself, what should a responsible doctor do? Probably try to find the real cause, order in-depth lab work. But what happens in reality? The doctor opens the chart, sees the patient is on 50 milligrams, and writes a script for 100. The dose doubles. A few months later, the brain gets used to that too, and the effect drops off again. Another appointment, another bump. And now Joe is on the maximum dose, and he still feels terrible. Only now he feels terrible both without the pill and with it. You know what the scariest part of this story is? Not the side effects, not the dose increases. The scariest part is that Joe got used to it. He can't even remember what it feels like to genuinely laugh. Not the polite smile at work, but that laugh that makes your stomach hurt. He watches a movie that would have brought him to tears before and feels nothing. His girlfriend says to him one evening, "It's like you're here, but you're not really here." And Joe doesn't know what to tell her, because she's right. Sex? Joe can't remember the last time he actually wanted intimacy. Not couldn't, wanted. The desire just vanished, like someone pulled the plug. According to a study by Goodwin and colleagues published in the Journal of Affective Disorders in 2017, 40 to 60% of patients on SSRIs report emotional blunting. Every other person. They're not sad, but they're not happy either. They're not suffering, but they're not living either. They're functioning. Like life is happening behind a pane of glass, and you're watching it, but you can't touch it. And one day Joe decides, enough. Let the anxiety come back. Let the insomnia come back. But along with them, let real emotions come back too. He wants to feel again, to get angry, to feel joy, to want his girlfriend. Joe throws the pills away. 2 days later, he realizes he made a mistake. First come the so-called brain zaps. One patient described it like this: it feels like someone unplugs your brain for a split second and then jams the plug back in. Then dizziness, so bad it's hard to stand up. Then nausea, then panic, real, primal, for no reason at all. The insomnia comes back, but now it's 10 times worse than it was a year ago when this whole thing started. All of these are documented symptoms of SSRI discontinuation syndrome, described in a paper by Fava and colleagues in the journal Psychotherapy and Psychosomatics in 2015. And so Joe is lying there at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, exactly like a year ago, thinking one thought, so I really am sick, so I can't live without the pills, so this is forever. The next morning, he goes to the pharmacy and buys a new bottle. But here's what Joe doesn't know. What he experienced was not the return of depression, it was withdrawal. His brain spent a year forgetting how to regulate serotonin on its own. When the crutch was pulled away, he fell. And he mistook that fall for proof that he was sick. This is exactly what the entire business rests on. Not on the fact that the pill helps, but on the fact that without it, you feel worse than you did before you started. You get in for free, but the price of getting out is so high that it's easier to stay. In business, this is called LTV, lifetime value. The total amount one person will bring a company over all the years they remain a customer. In a normal business, people dream of that kind of LTV. In pharma, they engineered it. Joe now pays every month, and he'll keep paying until he finds a doctor who explains the difference between a disease and a dependence on the treatment. For someone with severe clinical depression, antidepressants can save their life. That is reality, and I'm not going to deny it, but the system stopped distinguishing between two things a long time ago: a person with a genuine clinical disorder and a person who is drowning in their circumstances, a job that's killing them, a relationship that makes them miserable, chronic sleep deprivation. The body is screaming, change something, and the response it gets is a prescription to stop screaming. And here, everyone has a choice. You can take your life into your own hands, quit the job that's destroying you, end the relationship that's making you miserable, start actually sleeping, eating, and moving. It's hard. But on that path, you're the one making the decisions. Or you can hand those decisions over to pharma companies. They'll happily make them for you, for as long as you're willing to pay, which means your entire life. If you're staring at your orange pill bottle in horror right now, do not throw it in the trash. Quitting antidepressants cold turkey is dangerous, and the same studies I cited above confirm it. But here are 3 concrete steps you can take. First, get a blood test for folate and vitamin B12. If there's a deficiency, talk to your doctor about it, because without these vitamins, the antidepressant simply cannot work at full capacity. Second, read the full prescribing information for your medication. Not the marketing brochure, but the actual document with the clinical data. Third, talk to your doctor about a tapering plan ahead of time before you decide to stop. Because the difference between quitting your pills and coming off them properly is enormous. And most importantly, ask yourself one question: is your pill solving the problem or hiding it? This video wasn't made to make you feel guilty. It was made to give you knowledge and hand you back control over your own life. If you've ever tried to come off antidepressants, please share your story in the comments. Your experience could help hundreds of people right now understand that they're not losing their mind and that they're not alone in this nightmare. Hit this video with a like, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you send this to someone who needs it right now. There are way more people like that around us than you think. See ya.
Just a little orange pill, where do we begin? We'll plug the drain, we'll dim the light. Just sign right here for the rest of your life. Come on, Joe, it's just one